How is everyone doing today? We are going to be installing our electrical system in our off-grid motorcycle camping van. It's quite the system. Not really. It doesn't really seem like there's that much going on. Where the camping van will eventually just be used as a normal moto van for a dirt bike. As far as the other motorcycle, it's a Harley-Davidson Street 750, and it will be traveling with me across country in this van, just kind of exploring the world, getting some life experiences. But today, we will be installing the electrical system on this off-grid van. I have a list here, very high-tech list. It shows, let's see. As far as the punch list, starting off, we have the alternator. I decided not to go with solar for now, but the DC to DC charger that I got does allow both alternator charging as well as solar panels if I want to add them later. But we go alternator, I'll go with the more advanced one. Alternator, DC to DC charger, and then go straight to the battery bank. Then I have a battery isolation switch, therefore I can always turn the entire battery system off, so that just isolates them. And then a 12-volt panel, and then the 1000 watt inverter that I have. And then as far as the 12-volt panel, all the circuits that I have so far in my head are the fridge, the water pump, the ceiling fan, and the lights. And then for the inverter, the only thing I really need to do for that is wire a 120 outlet for my computer kind of behind the driver's seat. Alright, we'll see how this goes. Let's see. That is a big mamma jamma. That is my battery. Another one right there. Reference. This is my hand. So, this battery is going into the van. The only problem is, it's so big, it actually weighs 131 pounds, I think is what the thing said. So I'm gonna have to do that. For reference, I only also weigh like 140 pounds. Maybe 135, it fluctuates. Two-man job, my buttocks. Back straight, lift with your back in a jerky, twisty motion, as always. And then we'll be good. Oh God. Lift with your back in a jerky, twisty motion. Big, strong, I am Hulk. So what actually stinks is that my original plan for these batteries was to actually make a battery box that went like down into the floor. Actually in the very back of the van where the spare tire carrier is, and then I was going to put the rear wheel on the back, or the spare wheel on the back door, but I'm not doing that anymore, which leads me to putting it right here. I honestly would love to put it on the side with the motorcycle, but thinking about it, that would put every single heavy object and pretty much all the weight of this conversion onto the left side of the van, so this is probably the only way I'm going to be able to even it out, even in the slightest. The only issue is the wall is like 1.5 inches too short, which means I'm going to have to redo the whole thing for the third time. It's really just the handle. It's literally all it is. Just the slightest like bump out because of the handle. Alright, I gave it the Codeybean special. You know, that might be doable. I might not have to do that. Might work out just perfectly because I did plan on putting a trim piece there. All the utilities will be housed in this little closet that I decided to make. Each battery is a 200 amp hour battery. Both deep cycle batteries, lead acid, AGM. All the inverters, or the inverter and DC to DC charger will probably go up here, and then kind of figure everything else out on the fly. But this should be perfect for what I need it for. Wasn't the ideal location for the batteries, but it's always good to have some weight balancing in mind, considering the Harley-Davidson is going to be on this side of the van, and that's probably like 500, 600 pounds easily. And then all the batteries, both of these things are like 135 pounds each, as you'll see when I open the box for them. So it's good to balance out the weight on both sides. But ideally I wanted to make a battery, I don't know what the fuck's going on upstairs, a battery box in the floor, and place of the spare tire holder, and then have the spare tire on the back door. But the van's already long enough, so I decided to go against that for now. Just put them over there. But I'm going to lay out all my equipment, and then we'll get to it. Alright, so here's everything that I think we'll be installing today. If I have more stuff, I will make sure to show that. But starting off, I have new battery terminals. These are quick disconnects. So rather than having to use the bolt every time, I can kind of pull this lever and pull the terminals off if I have to. Next, I do have the DC to DC charger. This is a 50 amp Renogy charger. Comes with the fuse, a couple communication wires, as well as temperature sensor. But I don't know if I'll really worry about that right now. And then the next item is the 1000-watt inverter. I did get that. It comes with 3 feet of each color wire, a remote turn-on switch. So if you have that stuffed away somewhere, then you can always turn that on in another location. I do have a battery monitor. This is also Renogy. Everything pretty much here is Renogy for all the big power stuff. I just didn't want to deal with compatibility issues, so I paid the extra premium. The cool thing about this too is that it does DC solar panels as well as the alternator from the vehicle. So that you definitely pay a premium for, but in my opinion, if you don't know, I don't know. In my opinion, I thought that was a great fit for me, so I ended up going with it. Next, I do have 2-gauge wire. This way, the resistance for the whole circuit is lowered. Therefore, I'm not wasting energy. And efficiency needs to stay up. So, bigger the wire you can afford, go for it. I also got some lugs to go with all those. I do have the battery isolation switch. And then I have my 12-volt fuse panel. That all came with a bunch of fuses. But I do have an entire kit in my shop as well. I think that's about it though. So, hopefully this all goes in smoothly. And I can finally turn my lights on in here. Well, I mean, I guess it's not like super relevant, but I do have the switch panel. I put the positive terminal on the battery in the front, but it's probably going to make more sense to run the cables before I power them all up. So I'm going to run the cable starting from here inside the utility cabinet, go down, and then it's going to come out there in that little corner right there. This is going to be my common ground. This is like 3 layers of stuff that goes over, so I'm going to use a self-tapper. But the positive cable is going to come down here. There is a rubber grommet that comes up like right around here, I think. Somewhere around there. So I'll run this inside the tray. I'll just run it underneath the van up until the front of the battery. And then that's that. Alright, my cable's run. Connector is on. The lug, I should say. I don't have a crimping tool, so I end up just using vice grips. And I was cringing in the process, but it is what it is. As for the equipment placement, I'm thinking this is probably the route that I'm going to go. I think this works the best in my cabinet, where the charger's on the left, inverter's on the right. I'm push this as far back as possible towards the wall, because the alternator port is right there. So that will be cut right there. And then I'm left with this little extra piece, but it might be enough to get to the top of this battery. I don't know yet, because I still have to go through the fuse as well, so I don't think it's going to reach, but we can dream, I guess. The connector is on. I did have to drill out the lug, because these bolts on the mounting bolts are actually 5/16. So my lug was a 1/4 inch, but I did have a 5/16 drill bit, so I just drilled that out and then went from there. So that side I don't have to worry about, because that's where you would have the photovoltaic or your solar panels. So now I need to worry about the out positive for which will go from here to the fuse, and then the fuse to the battery, and then this one's just your common ground, so I need to ground that out on the battery, and then from the battery to the chassis. But now we'll start working on the fuse. Let's showcase how I have been crimping these wires. First off, cut wire. You want to make sure that it's going to fit inside the connector, or the lug I should say. So you want to cut it, strip it so that all of it's going to fit in there. So I'm going to call it like right there. Core that all the way around. Slice it down the middle. Open it up. Throw that. Twist them around a little bit. Get them stuck in there. Grab said lug. Throw lug over wire. Make sure you leave no man behind. Alright, apparently that was way too big. Cutting extra off. Throw lug on. That's good enough for me. Plop it in there. Vice grips, unfortunately. And squeeze. And then you do it like 17 more times with extra tension on it so that it gets tighter and tighter. And then I also have red tape, so I've just been taping them. I don't have heat shrink, so tape will do. And then you throw it on. Now that's on. Ground is now connected, so I can put these covers back on. Why is this supposed to come in through the sides? Oh my god. Alright, so that's what I came up with to combat the wires coming through the side of the DC to DC charger. I just ended up using the same wires and then drilling a hole through here, and then that goes to the top battery positive terminal. That way I don't have to waste lugs and work around that. Alright, so I am actually waiting on lugs to finish up the putting the batteries in parallel, etc. So what I've been thinking to myself is that maybe, just maybe, I should wire up all my circuits while I'm waiting on the lugs to come in. Because honestly, I'm trying to leave like now. I would love to leave like in the next 2 days. Have my switch panel from Amazon, of course. Have my hole cut out. This was a little long. Oops. But it like just barely fits in there and covers the hole. For my next trick, I will be installing my fuse panel. That way. This way. Fuse panel. Does that look good? Looks good to me. Wow. Look at it. It's beautiful. Beautiful, isn't it? While I was at it, I decided to cut in my battery monitor. The only thing is that it's only held in by like these little tiny tab things. Focus, Jeffrey. There's no like panel for it or nothing, so it literally just slaps right in there, and then you just, and then that's how it stays in. I don't know how much I trust that, but at the same time, it's not that far of a fall, so I might just leave it. The panel's coming together nice, I guess you could say. All right, I'll make this quick clip. Since my inverter is gonna go there, I'm gonna have a remote outlet under my bed for my computer, so I need to run a piece of Romex, which is just residential wiring, up to the ceiling, over here, through that hole that I drilled, and it goes to that electrical box. But I also have another 12-volt thing for the fridge. That's going to go there too, so I need to run 2 wires. Alright, update on the phone because camera's in the bag and I'm too lazy. So, inverter is mounted. The battery switch is also mounted. I have a breaker that then goes to the fuse panel. That's a 100 amp breaker. I didn't realize that on this inverter I had the 3 prongs or terminals for the wire. So instead, I actually bought a piece that plugs into here, and then you can connect this piece of Romex to it. But now that I have that, or that I realize I have that, I'm just gonna put the wires on here. Just stab those in there in this exact order, actually. All right, that's all in now. It is a little close to this for my comfort, but I wrapped some tape around it in case the ground connector comes out and starts stabbing stuff. So hopefully it stays there and I don't have to deal with any fires and whatnot. I also forgot to mention that I have 2 dimming switches that I was going to try for my lights. So I just plugged those in there. I thought they were long enough to get through to use a lock nut, but I guess not. The hole's pretty tight enough where I don't really need to worry about that coming out. Would be nice if I could use that. Looks like a face now. Looks like Plan B skateboarding. Alright, that is all done. So, refrigerator, which is the one under my head, that goes to the 12-volt socket. You have the water pump. I still need to run the negative for the water pump, but the water pump just goes straight to my switch panel, and then apparently I have 4 extra switches. I don't know what I'll use these for yet. As far as right now, this is the only one that's going to be used. Because these 2 are for the lights, and then I don't think I really need switches for anything else. So right now I have the lighting set up as lights for the whip or the motorcycle, and then the interior lights. And the interior lights are just for these ones. As far as the rest, I still need to get everything connected in parallel. The batteries are completely just sitting on their own right now. Nothing's really connected. I still have to do the battery shunt for the monitor. That has to be done on the negative side, just connecting it in series with the the negative terminal and your ground. Alrighty, check it out. Batteries have been wired in parallel. Batteries are wired, not gonna lie, I was kind of scarred from that because I didn't know if it was gonna blow up in my face. But luckily it did not. The battery shunt for the battery monitor is on there, connected to the positive side as well as the negative side. And you can see the battery monitor does indeed work, but I do have to program it to the correct amp hours that I have, and then I just gotta read the manual on how to do that because I don't know from the top of my head. But the rest of the stuff looks like the charge controller recognizes the batteries. I haven't turned on any of the fuses yet, or the battery switch, the fuse for the front, and then I also have a fuse up by the battery, by the car battery I mean, the starter battery. I have another fuse up there I need to go turn on, but I might wait to do that when I'm outside, because if there is a fire in here, that would not be ideal. So I'd rather do that away from everyone's shops here, because this building's made out of wood and I'd be kind of screwed. Everyone's belongings would just be screwed if I didn't get the fire under control, so I'd rather do that away from this place. Alright, so it looks like the way to get into the capacity settings is by holding OK for 3 seconds. Alright, so we gotta select that. 400 amp hours. Alright, well the alarm kept going off because these batteries are at 12.8 volts each, so yeah, I'm just gonna wait to charge these because the van's gonna have to run for quite some time if charging off the alternator for that, so I'll have to go drive it around at some point and see what goes on. Just test everything out, I guess. But that is that. I still need to put in the outlet for the computer, but other than that, I think we're good.